Part 5. Mom sighed, cradling you in my arms while you were loosely wrapped in the blanket. I looked you over. I remember watching your little chest and bandaged belly rise and fall as you breathed. I gently traced around the bottom part of the right side of your rib cage with my fingertips, since your dad has a gap in his rib cage from where Father God created me. So I was a little curious what his rib cage originally looked like before it was me. Your little legs moved around, rocking you a little onto your left side, and I realized that you even had a cute little bottom, and your seat sewing parts were like a tiny version of your dad's. Mom, please! At this point in the story, Cain slapped his face. I could hear my sister's stifling giggles as Cain's face reddened. I'll admit that at first I didn't want to hear this story for the 500th time, but now I found myself stifling giggles with my sisters at Cain's expense. This actually was kind of funny. Hey! Dad next doled out the finger flicks to quiet us. That cursed action of using his pointer finger springing forth from behind his thumb for extra power. Then the moment when his fingernail makes impact with a human skull. Ugh. He would often tell me that he could hear it echoing around in my head, since he was sometimes sure there was nothing in my head but vapor, hence one of the meanings of my name. First, Mom got a finger flick to her forehead. She quickly apologized to Dad and to Cain, since she was sadly no stranger to Dad choosing to exert his physical dominance over her. And sad to say, this was a rather mild case of it. Then my sister Kali received one. At first she tried ineffectively to seek shelter by hiding under Cain's legs, between there and the rock he was using as a seat. Between a rock and a hard place? Couldn't resist, sorry. When May received hers, she wailed loudly. I rubbed her back to quiet her, but found myself yelping as I received one too. Dad glared at me for a few extra moments. I think he was especially disappointed in me, since I was enjoying some lighthearted humor with the females at a fellow male's expense. Maybe Dad somehow thought I was disrespecting Cain's masculinity or something. Dad turned back to his favored firstborn, rubbing the top of Cain's head affectionately, while Mom apologetically stroked his dark curly locks. He smiled at him. It's all right, Cain, my son. Now that you're 11 years of age, your seed-sowing parts aren't at all little anymore. I've seen them a few times while we're working out in the field together, and we both suddenly feel the need to pee. Who knows, maybe someday yours might grow to be as big as mine. Dad! Cain was mortified once again. As funny as it was the first time, now I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. He may have enjoyed some of the attention, but probably preferred that attention directed more towards his face, rather than towards his seed-sowing parts, however nicely endowed he might have been at the time. I mean, he had a bit of a shy streak, where he liked to be a perfectionist and check everything off his to-do list. Sometimes this meant putting on a good, brave, perfect appearance for everyone else. It might have been unspoken, but I think we could all secretly tell that Mom and Dad thought Cain was the promised one. And I think maybe a part of him wanted to be that hero for them. Despite his fear of snakes and bloodshed, The other part of him probably just wanted to cultivate the ground as best as he did best, learning lessons from Dad on how to provide for the human family and emulate Dad's good qualities, while at the same time he wanted to learn from Dad's mistakes so that he wouldn't repeat them and turn into Dad in a bad way. He was so intelligent, scrupulous, and self-disciplined that I don't think I ever saw Dad punish him. But he could practically punish himself if he was less than satisfied with the harvest from a section of his land. Sure, I suffered losses as a shepherd, and I was devastated and I grieved for a time whenever I lost a lamb. But for the sake of the rest of the herd, I had to pick myself up, learn from my mistakes, and move on. Sometimes I wished I could make Cain see in himself what I saw in him. Maybe he was the promised one, maybe not. I didn't care. He was still my big brother, and I knew that the same Father God had put us in each other's lives for a reason. I glanced upwards and around at that moment. Since I didn't see Father God's hand coming to finger flick my dad at that moment, I knew it was up to me to somehow try to make peace.
Oh, Mom, why don't you go back to telling us about how you thought of Cain's name?
Cain smiled up at Mom.
Yeah, please continue the story, Mom. I like how you tell it.
While Dad reluctantly went back to tend the fire, muttering a slight grunt, Cain threw a wink over at me, mouthing the words, "Thank you." I winked and smiled back at him.